Is Jada Pinkett Smith a villain or the victim? I have here Will by Will Smith and Worthy by Jada Pinkett Smith, and I read both of these books, so you don't have to. So let's dive deep into the controversy of this infamous Hollywood couple. If you guys don't know me, my name is Bree from Everything Bree, and on this channel we talk about femininity, personal growth, and mindset. So if these are topics that are interested to you, follow my channel. Okay, so the other day I posted a poll on Instagram, and it's in, the height of all of this drama that's going on between Will and Jada, where Jada is, exposing a lot of their personal information on social media, not to mention in the past few years with the entanglement and Will Smith's Oscar slap. So all of these things have been brewing, and now that they both have their autobiographies released, I am just that person that wanted to read these books and dive deep and really see what's going on between this couple. So those are the kind of things that we're going to talk about today. We're going to really dive deep into each of their individual lives. We're going to talk about the entanglement and how I think that their personal experiences in their lives shape that, blow up, and then also the slap. Okay, so let's start off with Will. Actually, before we even start talking about the content of the books, I want to talk about the quality of these books. And I actually mean like the actual physical quality of them. They're both hardcover. This is the cover of Will's book. I know that you guys can't, I know you can see it up close, but if you actually feel it, like the sketch art on the book is textured. I mean, really, really good quality, hardcover. And in the middle of, the pages are nice and thick. And in the middle of the book, he has a bunch of images of his life. So his family, his grandparents, him as a child, his school, his dad, and there's some more here. Such a beautiful book with so much information. Like, this is really a good quality book, and very sentimental for an autobiography. Same side, but she has kind of like this collage in the front copy, and the thing that is most exciting to me about it is that, like, if you look up close, it's an image of her side profile, but the image is made of a million little images, like a million tiny little images. It's just, the creativity and the thoughtfulness that was put into the creation of the actual books themselves, 2 thumbs up, 10 out of 10. So we're gonna start off with Will. Will Smith, incredible man. His story is awesome. This is an autobiography, so it's talking about from his childhood to today. This book was released in 2021. So this book was actually released before the entanglement became exposed, and before the infamous slap. So that's Will. Jada's book was actually released last week. It was actually released last week, October 2023. Right now it's October 23 for whenever you guys are watching this. But yes, Jada's book was released just this month. So it's brand new, and this includes all of the juicy details about what's been going on. So the other day I posted a poll on Instagram, and I was like, because all the things that have been going on the media with their marriage has been being exposed on social media. So I posted a poll like Team Jada or Team Will, and so many people came into my DMs with like comments, questions, like concerns, like opinions. And I was like, oh my gosh, I read both of their books and I actually have the information, so I'm gonna spill the tea in this video. So I have my handy dandy notebook, and I made notes when I was reading this book because I'm just that girl. So we're gonna kind of go down the timeline of Will and Jada from beginning and then to how they met, and so then like the actions that ensued after. So just a little bit about Will Smith, because we're gonna start with him. Will Smith had like a very strict, structured lifestyle growing up. He had a military father, his mom was a teacher, involved in the church. His grandmother was super active in his life. I mean, very strict, very structured. The dad was a perfectionist. The dad expected and required perfection from his children. So Will Smith, that's kind of his innate personality. You know, he is expected to achieve excellence and outperform at all times. That is his personality. Jada, on the other hand, Jada had kind of more of a troubled childhood. Both of her parents were addicts. Jada's father was an addict until the day he died of an overdose. Jada's mother is now in recovery, or she's now, I don't know, what is it called when that you're not an addict anymore? She's not cured from her addiction, but she's not an addict anymore. But and I don't know about what addictions are called, but in Jada's childhood, her mother was an addict, so Jada was constantly fending for herself. She was a drug dealer. She kind of was in the streets, hung out with questionable crowds. So for them to end up in Hollywood and then to end up together was not the match that you were expecting. But I think that they are perfect for one another. So let's get started with Will. So just a little bit about Will. Will's parents, Will suffered exposure to domestic violence. His father was very violent with his mother. And that kind of really shaped Will's childhood in the sense that he felt that he was never able to protect his mother in the way that he wishes that he could have or should have. That really ingrained and instilled in him the fact that he was a coward. If any of you guys kind of know about mental health and know about how our childhood experiences really develop and ingrain our personalities, you will understand like that Will Smith really deep in his heart, besides the fact that he's a movie star, really believes that he is a coward and that he doesn't protect the women in his life, and that is really what's ingrained in his heart. So a lot of the situations that arise in his life, I feel, come from that ingrained limited belief that he's a coward. There's a story in the book that he shares that when he was a child in his neighborhood, there was a known sexual predator in his neighborhood, and like all the kids knew, like, that's the house, don't go near that house, kids are not allowed to go near that house. That was like the taboo place. So one day as he was walking the neighborhood from a distance, he saw a little girl going into that house with the man, and in his heart he knew that it was wrong, and he had a strong desire to go tell an adult, and he like went home and he was fighting to himself, like, tell an adult, but he was so scared to tell an adult because he was afraid that if he told and then something happened and the man found out that it was him, and the man would come after him. And he fought back and forth with himself about whether or not he should tell an adult about what he saw about the little girl going into the house that's off limits. And eventually he decided not to tell, and that has haunted him for his whole life. Things like this are what he writes in his book. Like if you think about it, like how I think about it is that in the story of his whole life, those are the things that he decides that he wants to talk about. So that's how you know that they are really ingrained in his mind, because Will Smith, this man that we know as this like actor extraordinaire with a life that anyone could dream of, he talks about that one time where he saw that one little girl go into that one house. So you know that was something that like really, really, really stuck with him, and he felt like he does not have the courage to stick up for what he knows is right. So you will see a lot of times where in his adult life that he's trying to make up for that fear that he has. So he kind of has a interesting timeline of women. So Will in his book talks about all of his significant relationships. He started off talking about his first girlfriend, Melanie. That was his first love, and she is kind of the beginning of Will Smith's villain origin story. So his first girlfriend, Melanie, they were together forever. He got signed. He goes on tour. He's in Europe, and he's on a tour bus full of young, freshly, fresh out of Philly rappers. And they're on tour and they're in Europe, and Will Smith is completely loyal to her while he is away on tour with touring for his rap group. And when he comes back to Philly, he's from West Philadelphia, born and raised. He comes back to Philly and finds out that his girlfriend, who he had been loyal to while he was like battling temptation after temptation of woman, found out that he cheated on her. That she cheated on him. I'm sorry. And that's kind of when Will went on a tangent. And that's when I started to see, and that's when he started to share that he started showing signs of violence. In that time, let's go to it. So I'm going to read it to you directly from the book. In that time, when he found out that Melanie cheated on him, he felt like he needed to seek revenge. But Will is also what I call an actor. And it sounds funny to say it because we know that he's an actor, but Will is actually an actor. Will is someone who doesn't really, and this is all information that I gathered from the book, this is not my opinion, but he does not share the same sentiments that we do. Like, he doesn't have actual emotions. He only has the way that he thinks he's supposed to act when a situation occurs. So he is not performing, or in his real life, and not in his career, but in his real life, when he's making decisions and doing things, he's not doing these things based on how he feels or what he wants to do. He's doing these things on, I'm an actor, how should I perform in this scenario? And this is even before his acting career began. So this is really innately him, which is crazy. So when he came home to find Melanie cheating on him, he did not feel emotion, but he felt like he needed to react. And the way that he chose to react was with violence. So he goes, what do you do when somebody cheats on you? I knew I had to do the storm out thing, but I also knew I had to do something violent to punctuate my departure. I scanned the room for possibilities. Next to the fireplace, I noticed one of those forged iron pointy thingies, and that's what it says in the book, that you poke the logs with. But what would I do with it? I sure wish I had some emotion to give me a little direction. So right there, I sure wish I had some emotion to give me a little direction. So he is about to perform this super violent act, and he is not even doing it out of emotion. He's doing it out of, what do you do when someone cheats on you? I know I had to punctuate my departure. So essentially he picks it up. He says it in here, as my yet undetermined but absolutely mandatory hissy fit. That's what he called him breaking out all the windows in the house one by one. So he says, I calmly carried the iron pointy thing towards the front door and began to break the windows out one by one. I guess I smashed about 12, maybe 15 before I felt I had sufficiently done my performative duty. He was 21 years old at this time. 21 years old, literally saying that he had no emotion, but he had to perform and to act out this violent behavior. Keep that in mind when we talk about almost 30 years later, when he goes up on stage and slaps Chris Rock across the face. Okay, so my headphone fell out. There's another situation with Will Smith and Melanie when, after that outlandish behavior, guess what? They got back together. So toxic. So there's another incident with Will Smith and Melanie when now they're he's a lot more established in his career. He comes back, he's like, full on rapper extraordinaire at this point. And he had a bunch of friends at the house, and Melanie got dressed and she was about to go out. And as she was walking out the door, he's like, where are you going? And she was like, oh, I'm going out. And I guess Will didn't like her response. So he literally got all her bags, all her clothes, all her stuff, anything that would make her look pretty, and burned them. And when he came back, he was like, oh, that's what you get, type of thing. So, I mean, that one was kind of paraphrased. I'm not going to read it directly from the book, but this is just like examples of Will showing that he acts out of character, but technically it's in character because it's not even a character for him. It's just a performance. And so think about that when you know about the things that Will, these are all things that he's telling about himself. This is his autobiography. So after Melanie, he dates another girl, Tanya. That was his LA girlfriend. So he dated Tanya. That was like, while he was becoming an actor. And then while he's an actor, while he's doing Will Smith, he gets a hold of Jada Pinkett Smith, okay? And I'm gonna start going a little bit faster and getting through this because we gotta get to Jada, and I've already been talking for 20 minutes. But it was so interesting on how it all happened. So he's on the set of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air now. Not Fresh Prince of him as a rapper, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the TV show. And he's in Hollywood, he's a big-time Hollywood TV sitcom actor. And he runs into Jada Pinkett Smith in Hollywood. And from the beginning, the moment he saw her, y'all, he was sprung. And he was like, who is that? Like, the moment he saw, Jada was not even checking for him. Jada did not even recognize it. Jada did not even notice him. He was a big time actor because, Fresh Prince was a big show, but this is, way before Will blew up like that. So he was an actor, but so was she. She was an actress. She was also in Hollywood. So she wasn't checking for him like that, but Will saw Jada and wanted her off rip. That is one thing I can say about this couple, that this man loves this woman. As soon as he saw her for the first time, he was like, who is that? And Will tried over and over and over to pursue Jada before he even crossed her path. There was one point where Will was saying that, they were in the same building and then they crossed paths, and he was like so nervous, like he wanted to talk to her, and he came to her and she was like kind of in a bad mood because she had just gotten some bad news, and he didn't know that. But so he comes in, he's like, hey, what's up? And then I don't even want to say it, but Jada literally was like, whatever, nigga. And this is what Will Smith said in his book. And Jada has no recollection of that one time because she didn't even care about him. And so it's just so funny to see. Not even funny, but it's kind of a beautiful thing to see how Will saw what he wanted and he actively pursued it. So we all know that before he was married to Jada, he was married to Cherie Zambino. And fun fact, the day that he met Cherie, he was actually there trying to impress Jada. So at this time, Will Smith was doing Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Jada was doing A Different World. And that was back in the day when they used to have the live studio audiences. So Will literally had constructed this whole plan. Will was like, I'm gonna get dressed, go out, get fresh. He said that he put on his jewelry, his nicest clothes. He got a fresh high top fade, that was his style. And he went to the live recording of A Different World with the intention to impress Jada Pinkett Smith. And when he gets there, he meets Cherie Zambino, and within 3 months they were married. So where's your head at when you meet a woman that you're supposed to be marrying, when you're literally there trying to impress another woman, right? So let's talk about Cherie a little bit, because that is a significant part of Will Smith's life. When he talks about Cherie, he never has nothing bad to say about her. But one thing I can say about the way that he talks about Cherie is that he talks about her kind of just as what you would want a ideal wife to be, but not what his dream girl is. So he talks about her accomplishments. He talks about how she comes from a good family. He talks about how she was super selfless. Like, she would just be cooking, you know, that was like, she really valued cooking. She really valued cleaning. She was like a very domesticated woman. He said, you know, there would at any given time be 4, 5, 6 of his friends at the house waiting for Cherie to cook for them. She would cook these huge meals and bring them to the set where he was recording, and everybody would eat her like feast. And like, he talked about everything that she did for him and never talked about the way that he felt about her. He talked about the fact that she was beautiful, but he never ever said, oh my gosh, like, I love this girl, like, oh my gosh, like, I couldn't wait to marry her. Like, all he talked about was how much she could do for him. There was a story where him and Cherie got into a little argument, and the words that he used to her was, you know, at the end of the argument, when he was upset, he goes to her, well, maybe one day you'll be worth something. Imagine your husband and father of your child telling you that you are not worth anything. So Will Smith did not value his first wife, Cherie, which is why the whole time he was with Cherie, he was still trying to pursue Jada. In his marriage with Cherie, anytime they got into a little altercation, a little disagreement, he was still in his quest to pursue Jada Pinkett Smith when she was still not even checking for him. There was one situation where Jada was in Baltimore with her mom, and when Will Smith calls her, and she answers, and she's like, she didn't recognize who it was. She's like, hello, and he's like, hey, it's Will Smith. And then the mom was like, who are you talking to? And she was like, it's Will Smith. And the mom was like, why are you talking to him? That's a married man. And then so she tells Will, she's like, you know, thanks for calling and checking on me, but or, you know, something to that extent, but my mom says that I shouldn't be talking to you because you're married. And he was like, okay. And this is, you know, before they even had any kind of chemistry or anything going on. So it's just to say that little by little, Will was always trying to plant the seeds of desire for Jada, even throughout his marriage. So now let's go to Jada. Okay, like I said, Jada, completely different childhood from Will. Will, structured, sound, straight and narrow. Jada, wild, crazy. Her mom both of her parents were heroin addicts. She was just out and about. She has a whole chapter of her book called like the Baltimore Streets, or like a graduate of the Baltimore Streets. Let's see what the exact words are. University of the Baltimore Streets. That's what she calls it. And she says that she has an advanced degree in the University of the Baltimore Streets. Jada goes into detail in this book of different times where she had guns pointed to her head, and stick-ups and robberies, times where she was, you know, carrying drugs throughout really questionable neighborhoods, where she got robbed multiple times, and drug deals gone bad. How she would be out in the middle of the night in like middle and high school while her mom was out doing whatever she was doing. How she literally was in these streets, y'all, like while Will was making out, you know, working with his dad in the backyard, and, you know, being this straight and narrow student, Jada was in these streets, right? So with Jada, okay, so Will has that kind of innate inadequacy of being a coward. Jada, on the other hand, has the issue that she does not feel loved. So she feels that she is not lovable, and that she is not, she does not deserve unconditional love. This is for many reasons. She always felt that if she was worthy of unconditional love, that her parents would not have kind of abandoned her to fend for herself, that she would not have had the experiences like growing up in the streets that she has. So the title of her book is actually called Worthy, and that is because Jada has always had this innate feeling of unworthiness, right? And, this feeling of unworthiness. So this is the innate character trait, or like the limited belief that she has that influences a lot of her behaviors. So when it came to Will, and when her and Will started dating and getting together, this idea of them having an open marriage, this idea of them being free to explore and not having a monogamous marriage was actually Will's idea. Jada did not want that for the marriage. In fact, there were so many things that Jada has sacrificed to be Will Smith's wife. Jada did not even want a traditional wedding and a traditional marriage. Will inspired her, or kind of influenced, or I would say kind of strongholded her to do that. She has a whole chapter in her book that is called The Reluctant Bride, because she did not want this life. Like, she had a vision, and she had at one point purchased a ranch that she was just going to live at. She wanted animals. She wanted to live this like small, quiet life outside of her Hollywood life. And it was Will that wanted this grandeur lifestyle, and that was never Jada's intention. So many times Jada has sacrificed to be Will Smith's wife. And one of the ways in which Jada sacrificed is that she agreed to having open, non-monogamous wedding or marriage. So kind of just a timeline. So let's go a little bit into like now what's really going on in their relationship. So I'm going to read an excerpt out of the book that talks about the way that they approach their marriage. So she said they would maintain their policy of complete transparency, no secrets about what we were doing and with whom we were doing it with. So that was kind of the foundation of their marriage from the beginning, that Will Smith is this major actor and that women are going to be coming at him from all sides, all angles. And instead of cheating and keeping secrets and lying, that it would kind of just be like we would turn a blind eye to it, but there will be no secrets. And this was all Will's decision making. This is what Will wanted for the marriage. And this is kind of just because Jada not feeling worth, love, and not feeling worthy, and feeling as if she is not worth unconditional love, she agreed to it. So the courting phase of Will and Jada was this like extravagant thing, and she would constantly say in the book, like, how in the world is Will Smith, this famous actor, this big movie star, this person that everyone loves so much, how is he even interested in me? That is how much she feels like, even though she was a big movie star, even though this man had been checking for her for 6-7 years prior to them actually getting married and the courting phase, she was still like, oh my gosh, how did I even get this man? So that really just shows you the way that she felt about herself. So kind of the story, Will Smith and Jada were dating while Cherie and Will Smith were going through the divorce. The divorce happened. Will and Jada continue dating. Jada gets pregnant with Jaden. She doesn't want to get married. He wants to marry her. They have this extravagant wedding it wasn't really extravagant wedding, but they have this wedding that was way bigger than what she wanted. It was kind of a compromise because she wanted something small. She didn't even want a legal wedding. And they had their wedding, and then their life begins. So now let's get to the good stuff, and then I'm gonna wrap it up. The entanglement timeline. In July 2015, that is when Jada meets August Alsina. In 2016 is when they had this breakup. So Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith broke up in 2016, and that's what she's been saying in the media, that like, oh, when the slap happened, I don't even know why he called me his wife, because we had been broken up. And that's true. Here in the book, let's see what page it is. They talk about the breakup. So what she says about the breakup is, so at the end of 2016, Will and I looked each other in the eyes and decided to separate in every way except legally. For us, what mattered most was the mutual agreement and informing the children of our separation. We would remain family strong and not lose our friendship. So in 2016, Will and Jada, quote unquote, broke up in every way except legally. In 2018, August comes on Jada's TV show Red Table Talk and comes in as a dear family friend, and they're talking about his health issues. They're talking about addiction, etc., etc. And then here we are in June 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, when all hell broke loose, and August Alsina gets on the Breakfast Club with Angela Yee and exposes the entanglement. If you guys were on the internet in June 2020, what a time to be alive, because the entanglement was all over. I mean, they made memes, they made songs, they made this, they made that, they made everything about this quote unquote entanglement. But what exactly was it? So August Alsina is confessing his love to Jada Pinkett Smith about the entanglement. But let's hear what Jada has to say about the entanglement. So Jada says, that's the backstory to what I call an entanglement. Let me clarify. In referring to entanglements as such, I don't think of them as affairs. I associate affairs with cheating. In terms of Will and me, there were no secrets, so there was no affair. So then she goes on to say, she says a couple other stuff, and she says, you know the expression, oh, what a tangle web we weave. That's where I was. So she says that this entanglement that everybody was going so crazy about was not even an entanglement, because Will knew, and it was not a secret, and they had been broken up. So it doesn't really matter. So I guess there was kind of this like preconceived notion when it came to the slap, that the slap was inspired because, you know, Jada was this adulterous wife, and she pushed Will to the brink of, you know, slapping Chris Rock because he made this comment about her. But is that really true? No. In 2016, this is another year. So the same year that Will and Jada supposedly broke up. No, I don't want to say supposedly because it's written in black and white. So who am I to say? But in 2016, the year that Will and Jada broke up, that was also a year that Chris Rock hosted the Oscars. And in that year, Chris Rock poked fun at Jada at that Oscars first. He kind of said Jada was boycotting the Oscars, and Chris Rock made a joke like, oh, Jada Pinkett is boycotting the Oscars, and that she wasn't even invited to the Oscars to be boycotting it. So now fast forward to 2022 when Chris Rock is hosting the Oscars again, and Jada's like, oh no, I hope that he doesn't go up there and poke fun at me. And what does he do? He pokes fun. Will, who has had his whole life being a coward, who has had his whole life feeling as if he wasn't defending the women that were, you know, he was supposed to defend. What does Will Smith do when he has Jada, a wife that doesn't feel as if she's unconditionally loved, a wife that feels like, you know, that she has sacrificed so much and has gotten back so little? Will Smith, being the masculine man that we all want him to be, decided that he needed to protect and honor his wife in that moment, and he went up and slapped Chris Rock. So with all of this information, the background of their personalities, the background of their childhood, knowing their innate fears and their negative self-talk and the things that inspire their actions, knowing the sacrifices that Jada has made, and knowing the relationship that they have, you guys tell me, is Jada a villain or is she the victim? Let me know in the comments. And it was so fun talking to you, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next video. Bye.